Hi, I'm TJ Pierce, and today I want to talk to you about healing trauma with the ELDOA method. When we talk about trauma, we often think of it in two different categories. We think of it as a physical trauma, so a car accident, a ski accident, a sporting accident, something like that, or an emotional trauma, something that we've been holding in our bodies through emotional abuse, emotional confusion, any of those things. But the reality of it is they're one thing, and all of our emotions are seated in what's called our interoceptors. So our interoceptors are the cells within our fascia, on our organs, in our tendons, that give us feedback as to what's going on inside of our body. So an easy example would be a nociceptor, right? A nociceptor is just a fancy word for a pain receptor. So if your stomach burns, if you have an upset stomach, that's a nociceptor. If you have a headache, that's a nociceptor. Another one we can talk about are like the Golgi tendon organs. So those are stretch receptors. So when I lengthen my arm, I know it's stretching because I'm getting a GTO or a stretch receptor response. All this is to say that your emotions and your trauma are deeply based in cells in the body. So the question becomes, how do we work with those cells? And how do we ease the trauma, both the physical pain and the emotional pain that are all seeded from the same cellular response? My favorite technique is the ELDOA method. So the ELDOA method was created by Dr. Guy Voyer, and it's basically a series of postures that help us create space in the joints by pulling in various directions through the fascial system. So a majority of these cells respond to stretch. The challenge becomes, how do you stretch in such a specific area as to alleviate the tension there? So I'm going to give you a freebie today, and I'm going to show you what we call the T8, T9 ELDOA. Okay, so the T8, T9, it's approximately here on the spine. So T is for thoracic, so T8, thoracic 8 vertebrae, so the 8th thoracic vertebrae, and T9, the 9th thoracic vertebrae. So I'm going to use this posture to try to create a pulling mechanism above and below so that my T8 vertebrae pulls up and my T9 vertebrae pulls down. If we can make that happen, what we do is we start to stretch all those interoceptors in that region. So for T8, T9 specifically, that also is the nerves that come out and innervate both the liver and the gallbladder. So someone who has trauma to the liver from impact, someone who maybe has been a drinker or exposed to chemicals. It doesn't really matter for us with the ELDOA what was the cause of the trauma. What we're looking to do is stimulate the interoceptors around the area of which we are experiencing the trauma to help reset that signal in the brain. So if you want, you can jump in with me. A quick caveat, I always encourage people to find a qualified ELDOA instructor to make sure you're learning how to do the postures correctly. The reason we do that is if you've had a trauma, it really affects not only your interoception, but it affects your body awareness. So for instance, someone that has a trauma to the liver, that's going to hold more tension in the fascia around the liver. So that can create maybe a side bend in the posture, maybe a flexion in the posture, and you may not even know that you're doing it. So having someone qualified to help you with the ELDOA can really make a difference to make sure you're doing it correctly and getting the best benefits. But if you want to give it a go, let's do it. So we're going to do the T8, T9 ELDOA. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on the floor and I'm going to grab onto my shins. The further you have your legs in front of you, the easier it's going to be to stay vertical. The more that you bring them in, the more challenging it's going to be, but the more stretch and the more effect you're going to have on those interoceptors, okay? So step one, I grab my shins. If you can, you lift only your big toe. If you can't do that, don't worry about it, just keep your feet flat on the ground. From there, I'm going to lift as tall as I can. So I'm trying to keep my ear, shoulder, and hip all in a line. We call that our gravity line. From there, I make sure that I'm breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth, keeping my belly relaxed. So that's stage one. Maybe that's as far as you can go, no problem. The next step is I'm going to bring my left arm out in front and then my right arm out in front. I'm going to spread my fingers, bend my wrist back, spiral open, and push my arms forward. That would be step 2. If you can, we move on to step 3, where I gently bring one arm and then the other arm directly over my shoulders. And now I'm going to work for 1 minute. During that 1 minute, I want to go through all the cues. The cues are like this. I have my eyes down, looking about 1 to 2 feet in front of me. I'm breathing with a relaxed belly and a relaxed jaw. My fingers are spread, my wrists are bent back, my arms are in an external rotation, and I'm reaching as high as I can. I'm trying to create a stretch all through the fascial system, targeting the T8, T9 junction. Stick with me. We're continuing to breathe from our belly. Fingers are spread, wrists are bent back, elbows are locked, arms are spiraled open, and I'm reaching as high as I can. We continue to breathe. We're going to hold this for a minute. Let's go another 5, 4, 3, 2. When I come out, I gently relax one arm. I gently relax the other arm. I gently relax my spine. So that's one of many ELDOAs that we can do. We have an ELDOA for every spinal segment and a majority of the appendicular skeleton. So if you're looking for a new way to help break through emotional and physical traumas, give the ELDOA a try.